Hi everyone, welcome back to Pommy and Oz. Hope we're all doing really well. If you're new around here, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on so you don't miss a video. And welcome to a preview of Carlton versus Melbourne. Let's run the intro and get into it. Absolutely huge game here with huge ramifications, particularly for my Blue Boys. 13th on the ladder, 4 wins, 1 draw, and 6 losses. And 4 of them losses are on the bounce since our decimation of the Eagles. And the boys are disjointed, disconnected. There is no cohesion. You can see it on the field. Opportunities are created. However, they're not finished. And the boys are really, in fairness, almost clinging on at the moment. I think that's a fair metric to say. Melbourne, on the other hand, they've had 2 losses themselves on the back of each other, and this game here really is probably the conduit that could really revitalise. Melbourne, we know we're going to be all right. 7 wins and 4. This game definitely means more for Carlton, but Carlton do the unthinkable and beat them. Could be a total different kettle of fish. We looked last time we played, we ran them so close, and it's interesting. The last couple of times we've played, it's been a really close game, and both sides have really put on good performances, and it could have gone either way. And both sides are missing key parts of their cogs. Clayton Oliver missing for them. For us, we're missing Pitternet. It's a real tasty affair on Friday because anything can happen. Anything can happen. And Carlton have got to go into that mindset of, okay, Pitternet's missing. We've got to win the midfield battle. We've got to be hard. Melbourne are a really interesting proposition because they're the highest scoring side in the league, averaging 10 different goal scorers a game, where Carlton averaged 6.5. And it's interesting because Carlton are very similar to sides such as Geelong, who have 2 key tolls, but it's the goals that come elsewhere. Very similar targets for their key position players, which is obvious. Hawkins, Cameron, Curnow, Mackay. It's getting other people involved, and that is something Melbourne do incredibly well. They get players involved. They have many avenues to go, many ways to skin a cat, and it's something that in this game is going to be integral. That midfield battle is going to be so key, and your ability to create different patterns, different leading patterns is going to be so important. Let's look at the teams head-to-head this year. And you can see, as we look into the team stats, both sides favour a kick. Carlton more so than Melbourne. 59.6% of our touches are kicks, 57.3%. Disposals, Carlton have the monopoly. This ball retention game, this indecision at times comes on the stat sheet as well. Carlton don't look to get as many metres gained as their rivals here. And that is a very interesting one when you look at it, because Melbourne are averaging 16.8 metres per touch, where Carlton are averaging 15.5. And that doesn't sound a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, over that, that's a lot of metres gained when you're having the ball as much as Carlton. So something to bear in mind. Disposal efficiency has been talked about a lot by Carlton, probably flawed by a lot of the shorter kicks, but 73.7 versus 73.4, very similar stats, not much separating them. Kicking efficiency, 67%. We know Melbourne, they've got some very solid kicks in their side. Inside 50s, though, they're generating a lot more entries and more avenues to go, as we talked about, but they are putting it on a platter a lot more. Nearly 77% of inside 50s against them become a rebound 50 versus 76.5. And like we said, 16.8 metres per disposal. It's a very important stat. Shows you how direct they are. Melbourne are on the AFL threshold for average. There's only 8 teams above that. Port Adelaide, Sydney, Hawthorn, Fremantle, Essendon, Richmond, who actually do it more, where Carlton are one of the least metres gained per side. But it's interesting enough, that doesn't really replicate success because Brisbane and Collingwood are below Carlton. So Just always a good little makeup tool to have a look at how sides work. We know Carlton are a contested side. We know Carlton like their clearance, but not much separating them. And it is worth noting they are going to lose the hit-outs to advantage in this one. But the marks, Carlton like that ball retention, that kick mark game style, where Melbourne, they play that handball game. They play that run and stun. They look to bring players involved, and that's a big part of their success. 23.4% of inside 50s are marked. Carlton's it's 22.8%. Hit-out win percentage is in favour to Melbourne, and obviously that's going to be even more this week. Hit-outs to advantage is flawed. No pit and net for Carlton. The tackles, though, very similar. Goals, though, this is where it changes. Look at the goal accuracy, inside 50 success rate, and the goals. They make something happen, and it's interesting that the chance creation to Carlton's is almost identical. They just finish their breakfast where Carlton don't. Let's have a look at individual players then, and we start with track. On track, Christian Petrarca, one of the, if not one of the most informed players this year, and no one's really talking about it. And when you look at his individual numbers, they are scary. Elites, just blues across the board. Contested possessions, 13.5. Ground ball gets 9.9. He's a tough little cookie. Score involvements, inside 50s is one of the most for the players in the inside midfield position. 6 clearances. And Tracker and Viney and Fritz are a combination, are a real combination. When we get onto the ruckman, you'll see why. No Clayton Oliver there, but this guy can do that role as well. And it's not going to affect them greatly. He's someone that Carlton are going to have to watch, especially when Grundy's in the ruck, throwing his body and trying to act as a stopper. If you can give this guy some space, he can take the game away from you. And his ability to hit up targets inside 50 is very scary. He's definitely a player that Carlton are going to have to look at and be like, we have to do something about him. And Petrarca is such a smooth customer. Nearly 20 meters per touch he has is, I think, scary. He's scary, and he makes up 35% of the score involvements of their team. He's a real solid little player, and a player that Carlton are going to have to watch. Up next, Glitzy Fritz. And we know that anyone who plays in that small forward line, that high half forward line, can cause chaos. We talked about Heaney and Papley last week, and Fritz is very similar. Runs that pocket zone up to the high half forward, and it's dangerous because it crosses about 3 zones. And every team plays a zone. The top teams find a way to cause indecision. All it takes is that slight stagger as he crosses your zone. Do I pick him up or do I go back? And it's game over. And his ability to work players in behind him. He's their leading dummy leader. Marks on lead 1.1, but he makes a lot of dummy leads. 6 score involvements, very good. 4.1 shots, elite. Inside 50s, 2.6, very good. And 2.2 goals. He's deadly in every sense of the word. And what he's looking to do is he's looking to be that conduit. He's looking to be that relief for the midfield. He also doesn't skiv on his defensive duties, decent pressure act numbers as well. Someone that you've got to really watch if you're Carlton. And then we look at the deadly duo. We talked about them, Maxi Gorn and Brodie Grundy. It's almost a cheat code. And Grundy, very underrated this year, being that backup for him. 48.4% wins. That's very good. 33.3. That's a third of them to advantage. 4.3 ground ball gets. He's almost an auxiliary midfielder. And with Oliver being not there, that's going to be important when he's rooking because he's going to be quite capable of being the pain in the backside for Carlton and doubling up and kind of stopping it. And that's why maybe you could have an argument that Carlton maybe look at Jesus for this one. He's going to lose the body work, obviously, but he's going to be on the ground when it gets there and try and help them out, create that overload. Marks, 2.5. He still works quite hard around the ground. This is just AFL average. And it's quite interesting. Both of them slot forward, both of them slot back, acting as them backstops. And we talked about acting as them backstops. 4.5 marks, whether he's forward or back behind the ball, he breaks up play. And that is something that they do. And they like to create that overload down the back, particularly with Maxi Gorn, and throw in an extra person about on the arc of 50, try and cause them indecisions should you attack the high channel. Elite hit-outs to win percentage. Okay, hit-outs to advantage, ground ball gets and tackles. These are still supreme numbers. Maxi gone is going to be an issue because he's going to get his team first use, and something that Carlton are going to have to negate with good on ball and be really aggressive to the ball. Really aggressive. You can't be defensive and sit back with these guys. You've got to go up, mano a mano. It's going to be really interesting how they negate that. The tough duo. We talked about inside 50s. We talked about that. We talked about getting the ball in. And these two here work in two separate roles, but in tandem, they work very well together. AFL average for one-on-ones. They don't quite spoil as much as most or mark. They definitely are looking to use the ball. And it's a good spread here for May because he's just below the AFL average for these marks. But his kicking efficiency, very good. And his score launches, he's looking to catch Carlton out on the counter. And it's something that he does incredibly well. And really be careful of that because he often finds himself loose. He likes to free himself up. And that's going to be a really interesting one in this game for Carlton, of how they try and offset that. Because if Stephen May gets loose, particularly if he's getting the ball enough times, he's going to be able to systematically pick apart Carlton's forward press and really hurt them. And it's interesting, last week, they lost mainly because of their kicking efficiency wasn't as good. But you looked at May, he was looking to do it. And it's going to be funny because they play that Hibbard, that Jug McVeigh as well. They all help out, but they try and free this guy up. That's a big little part of what they do. But he's going to have to play more centrally this week against Carlton. He's going to have to play a lot more centrally, a lot more in that key role. Hibbard's going to do what he can, but the height of Carlton is going to be an issue eventually, especially if you try and rest TDK up there. But watch Stephen May. His ball use is impeccable, and we know Carlton are a weak transition defence side. Jakey Lever, though, very good on his one-on-ones. This is where he goes. Him and Hibbard usually are doing that more defensive role. Again, they don't spoil it. They don't bring it to ground as much. They're looking to take that mark first and then get the game going. And this is what he does very well. Lever, though, incidentally, 1.3, very good score launches. Even though his kicking efficiency is AFL average, he still can intercept. And they work really hard. You'll see Tom Sparrow and Ed Langdon, they bust a gut to help Rivers and Salem give them options. And they almost overload that defensive side to get the transition. So look out for that because Lever can spot the pass. Deadly forwards. Keziah Pickett, he's the man that hurt us last time we played, and he's incredibly skillful. We talked about Heaney and Papley last week. Very similar how these two operate. Again, coming from the pocket, you'll see him make two really independent runs. One's from the pocket going high half forward. The other one is going centrally. As you'll see, maybe Max Gorn, he likes to just float to the pocket and be that outlet for his midfield. And he'll come centrally. And you often see him take that hit-up mark, 35, as that indecision has been caused, particularly with Fritz doing a cross-pattern run. Marks on lead, very good. Score involvement's elite and shots generated elite. 2.8, very good. He doesn't mind coming that deep and giving it off and trying to be that guy outside 60 as well. They work really hard. There's a real big cohesion between their forward, midfield, and back. They work in tandem with each other. They work well. And Pickett, very disciplined with Fritz in this system of trying to isolate their key forwards and getting that space and attacking the space well. Carlton are going to have to watch that. How do Carlton gate it? The Italian stallion, Adam Cerra, easily been Carlton's best player this year from a consistent basis. And when you look at his numbers, it's easy to see why. He's a very, very strong player. And you can see here, just across the board, everything is A-OK. 14.5 meters gained as well per touch. So he gets the ball moving forward. 52% centre bounces attended as well. These are little important notes. So he makes up 26% of Carlton's score involvements. 9.8 contested possessions. Ground ball gets 7. Tackles 4.6, clearances 4, 6 score involvements. Adam Cerra needs his hands on the pill. Needs his hands on his pill in a more attacking position. We talked about what Tracker does. Carlton have got to find a way of unlocking Cerra in that role, of being that handball from Cripps and going through traffic and trying to make things happen. He's a lot more direct than his Messers, and it's going to be an important role that Cerra has here because He's going to have to be solid defensively, but he's also got to be solid attacking-wise. And Cherry, if Carlton can free him up, are going to be in a real healthy position. The timber down the back, we talked about how many score involvements they have, how many avenues to go. Nearly 11, just under 11, it's got to be said. And these guys are going to have to work overtime. Mitch McGovern is a big part for Carlton. We talked about the score launches. I think Carlton need to maybe deploy something in this game where to try and help Adam Sard. So Adam Sard, a lot of the times, is doing Carlton's kick-ins. That is what they're looking for. They're looking for him to be the kicking king, almost. They want him to do that. And it's a shame, really, when you look at it, I think, because I think that there's a lot of ways that if they played Sard as almost a rover on these guys, it would really help. And Mitch McGovern could do that. Play at his feet, him do it. Because Adam Sard this year hasn't been involved in that many score launches. At the moment, he is well down, 1.5, well down of where he usually is. Last year, he was almost oscillating at 2. A lot of score involvements as well. Okay, one-on-ones. Again, not bringing it to Sard's ground. And that's why I'm saying play him at Sardi's feet, almost like a pseudo rover. Try and get him freed up. Get him taking the kick-ins with that very good kicking efficiency. Try something just a little bit different, I think. I think it's something to look at. Mitch McGovern and Sard share the duty. I'd love to see McGovern take it over a little bit more with Boyd and Doc and let Sard play on the feet. Because this year, I think it's the answer. Try and free him up in another way. And elite score launches. We're going to have to try and catch him on the counter. That is going to be an important task for Carlton this week. And something that I'm hoping we see early doors. The other guy, Brodie Kemp, if it's not going to be him, this is a really great option here for Carlton to go mark heavy. He has been really impressive in the small catchment of games he's played. Okay, one-on-one win percentage. Spoils again. Carlton don't look. They're looking to mark and be a lot more defensive down the back. Play to their one wood. But this is where you lose the ability of Boydie and Sard. The marks have been very good, though. Kicking efficiency is okay. That's livable. Again, another option here for Carlton to let this guy be a bit more aggressive. And they're going to have to, because Fritz and Pickett, McDonald, whoever else you name that forward line, there is going to be opportunities for Carlton. Last week, they went with Van Ruin and McDonald. Whether Ben Brown plays, we don't know. But these are options. They're going to target these players, and Carlton have to be ready. And Brodie Kemp, for me, is a player that can take the game on very quickly and make something happen. And we finish with Jacob Whelan. I really think that he accidentally found his best role last week as a defender. And you can see elite one-on-one percentage. I don't think there's anyone better one-on-one than Whelan. Spoils, again, he does look to bring his smalls down. He needs that work. This is where Boyd is going to be really important. Just be there. Be his friend. Be his legs. Because it's okay kicking efficiency. The marks are elite, though. The score launches are manageable. But maybe mirror that Melbourne. One of you's the defender. Use your smalls. Give the ball off. So they've got to be looking for the switch with Whelan for me. Boydie's got to be. If he's right pocket, Boydie's left pocket. Switch it. Boyd uses bullet-like foot. It's going to be interesting because this guy's got a lot of work to do, Whelan, this week. And the firing forwards, we talked, if Carlton could fire with these forwards and create more avenues to go, they'd be quids in. They'd be laughing. And let's look at them. Matty Owens, big job this week with no Durden. Durden has been playing that kind of picket role of being a lot deep, doing them leads. This is where Matty Owens comes in now. Give him that responsibility because arguably him and Kerno are in-form forwards. As you can see by the last figure there goes. Matty Owens, 0.5 marks on the lead. Incredible numbers they could be, considering that he's literally forced in the pocket all the time. I want to see him involved more. For all of his goals, he's languishing outside the top 10 of score involvement percentage for Carlton. And there you see 4.5. Get him more involved. Get him working up that high area. 2.8 shots, that's elite. Inside 50s below average. Get him working that channel. Get him trying to change the angle for Carlton. Getting him starting in the pocket and making him make a diverting run. We know Mackay likes to work in that pocket. Get them to switch in their run. Crossover. Cause a bit of zonal chaos. Melbourne play a strong zone. And that would make sense. Looking at Harry. Elite contested marks and marks on the lead. So he's putting himself in the purview, if you will. He's putting himself in the shop window. And you've noticed that teams aren't doing what they did with Daniell a couple of years ago and ignore him and double up on someone else. They're still paying him the respect because they know that kicking accuracy, once that changes, he's already AFL average for goals. That could be scary good when you've got these elite numbers. And that is a big thing for Harry. Keep at it. And I wouldn't mind to see them switch around, play him a bit more century and a bit deeper, try and isolate him one-on-one, give him the easier kicks at goal. But this is where Owies and Motlop can help out, driving it late, getting him one out deep, getting him closer to goal. Because at the moment, Curnow and Harry have to work too hard, higher up the ground, and get them marks 45 out. And we talked about Charlie Curnow, elite contested marks, elite marks on the lead, elite shots at goal, 5.9. Scoring accuracy, very good. Elite goals, 3.4 a game. He's a different breed of footballer. He is a huge issue for Melbourne. Jake Lever, Hibbard and May, they're under the cosh if he gets off because two of them are going to have to go to him, which then frees up that third, whoever Carlton play. And that's why we said Matty always so important in this role. Get him working up the ground. Get him contributing that way. Bringing them in. We talked about the forwards, but these guys here have to pay some homage to the forwards. They've got to get the game moving forward. And we look at it here. Sam Walsh is a guy here for me who is integral to what Carlton do. And I'm looking at him to change the angles. He needs to be thinking, how can I better service it? Instead of going deep, do I start demanding that short lead? 4.4 inside 50 is very good. Kicking efficiency, very good. Ball retention, he has the ball 6.4 times before he turns it over. That's a very, very high stat, just so you know as well. That's a very good stat. Means he's in the top echelon of players, the top 35%, which is a very solid place to be. And it's also important noting that he's the second most involved player in scores. He's got to be that David Silva type player. Get them score involvements, the meters per touch. I'd like to see that a bit higher. Trust his peg a little bit. Trust it. Take the game on a little bit more, Sam. Because the more he takes the game on, the more chances Carlton will create and the better chances Carlton will create. Matty Kennedy, we're going to see him in the midfield all the time. Thank Christ for that. And this meters per touch excites me. 14.3. Average score involvement's 3.9. Again, decent numbers for a ball retention stat. 68.4% kicking efficiency. Inside 50s, they should go up this year. But this guy's more direct. He looks to get the ball to high half forward from the centre. And that is a big thing for Carlton with their overinflated disposal numbers. Way too many to exit places at times, particularly around the stoppage and clearance. Kennedy, I like him. He gets the ball moving forward. And that is a big role. He's going to have a big part to play in this week. A big part. And Patrick Cripps, elite ball retention, elite scoring involvements. Again, he looks to get involved. Him and Walsh, top two with Chera. They're in a good position there. You'd like to see some of a high half forward, though, there, like other clubs. Very good score involvement, elite score involvements, elite ball retention, 9 times before a mistake. 3.5 inside 50 is very good. The kicking efficiency is a handballer. So we need him handballing to Chera and Walsh, like he did last year, where he was taking the contact, handballing to them in space. That is what Cripper has got to do. And he'll be fired up this week because he's been big. He's been bold. He's defended himself and he's defended the team. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Cripper can bring. Looking at the team then, we've gone with what we think the team will be. And it's always tough to tell. But we've gone with Kemp, Wheater in, and Chincotta comes in down the back. A little bit of pace, a little bit of muscle. Sardi, young, bringing him back. Needs someone to ruck for these bigger bodies, but also the key position there, which hopefully with a defined role, that'll work. Sam Doherty finishes off the defensive line, but I expect to see him play some midfield. Akers, Cripps and Cottrell. Walsh, Harry, Fisher returns after his Herculean effort. I expect they bring him back. Motlop, Kerno and Mr. Owies. Followers, TDK, Cherrett and Kennedy, with the bench being Boyd. O'Brien should return a good VFL period. Mitch McGovern, JSOS, so they've got someone to play that high half forward in the ruck. And I expect with the news that Ed Kerno is going to play VFL, that means they finally give Fogarty a go as the sub. That's the team game Friday. Get yourself down. If you can't get yourself down, come and tune in to the watch along with yours truly, myself. Can't wait to entertain you all and hopefully get these boys over the line in what is a tough, tough ask. But where there's faith, where there's will, there's always a way. Look after yourself. Enjoy your weekend. Pom out.
I see her rolling up, Uber black Cadillac, high heel boots and a sexy body full of tats. Baby's bad, oh baby's hella bad.